This 18-year-old girl is trapped in the mountains by an invisible wall. She can clearly see the other side, but can't get through. She has no choice but to look for another way out. She sees an elderly couple in front of a cabin on the other side. The woman hurries over to greet them, only to find this area is also blocked by the invisible wall. No matter how loudly she calls, the elderly couple don't react. They remain in fixed positions, like wax figures. 2 days earlier, Tina and the Hugo couple, along with their dog, arrived in the beautiful Alps for a holiday. After arriving at their destination, they settled into a small cabin. The Hugo couple decided to take a walk to the nearby village. Tina, tired from her journey, chose to rest in the cabin. Until the next morning, she was woken by their dog barking outside. But when Tina went downstairs, she found the Hugo couple missing. Hugo not only had heart problems, but also suffered from mild depression. This worried Tina greatly, so she took their dog and set off, planning to search for her friends in the village below. But not far from the cabin, the dog stopped and refused to go any further. Yet there was nothing ahead. Confused, Tina went to investigate. Then the dog turned and ran away in terror. The next second, Tina bumped into an invisible wall. At first, she thought it was a hallucination, so she sat down. After resting for a while, she cautiously reached out to touch it again. She could feel a real texture. A hallucination couldn't be this real. Tina suddenly realized the Hugo couple's disappearance might be related to this wall, so she decided to look for another exit. Not far away, she saw a small cabin. There was another elderly couple in front of it. Tina wanted to ask for help, but this area was also blocked by an invisible wall. The people outside the wall were frozen. The water was flowing, and the nearby plants were swaying in the breeze, but the people remained motionless. Tina started to panic. What was going on? As dusk fell, she returned to the invisible wall to check. The barrier hadn't disappeared. Disheartened, Tina returned to the cabin to rest. In the middle of the night, she woke from a dream, finding herself trapped in the cabin by an invisible wall. Thankfully, it was just a dream. The next morning, Tina and her dog searched for another exit, but the results were not optimistic, and along the way, besides herself and her dog, she hadn't seen any other living creatures. The elderly couple remained motionless in front of the cabin. Then, with a feeling of despair, Tina walked towards the higher ground. But just then, the dog suddenly ran towards the front. Not far away was a pregnant cow. This gave Tina a glimmer of hope. She even gave the cow a name, Bella. In the days that followed, Tina carefully looked after Bella. In return, she could milk the cow for herself. Exploring nearby, she suddenly saw a car in the distance. Excitedly, she sped towards it. The car was totaled in the crash. She was injured badly. Despair consumed her again. Back in the cabin, Tina lay in bed, grief-stricken. She even considered ending her life. But looking at her dog and Bella, Tina abandoned the thought. She decided to live. To solve the problem of food, she started to cultivate a small garden. She also started to record her daily life. Days turned into weeks. One day, a heavy rain poured down. Tina heard a noise outside. She took a knife and went to check. It was a rain-soaked cat. Tina took the poor cat in. Now she had 3 friends. Life became more interesting. She prepared food for her animals every day. She cut grass to feed the cow. To survive better, Tina started hunting in the woods. Unfortunately, her aim was terrible. Empty-handed, Tina returned to her wrecked car. She decided to listen to some music to relax. She unexpectedly found a map in the car. Then, she took the map and strolled around the mountaintop. As she walked, she suddenly noticed a logging truck parked nearby. However, this area was also blocked by an invisible wall. There was a hunting cabin in the mountaintop pasture. It still had some usable furniture inside. Tina then took out her binoculars and looked around. In the distance, she could see several small cabins standing at the foot of the mountain, but she couldn't see a single person. Fortunately, the view from the mountaintop was so captivating, it significantly improved her mood. Although Tina felt like a bird in a cage, she maintained an optimistic attitude. You wouldn't guess she was trapped here. Easily captured dying prey. The kitten she had taken in had given birth to a cute little one. This gave Tina hope again. She named the new life Pearl. With the new addition, their food supplies increased, enough to ensure they lived comfortably there. But even so, whenever she finished her work and thought about being trapped, she would fall into despair and suffer. Winter arrived, and heavy snow fell in the valley. The cold wind mercilessly took Pearl's life. Tina's spirits plummeted again. She decided to hunt some game to vent her emotions. She suddenly spotted a fox to the west. Tina could have shot it, but she didn't. It seemed she saw the essence of life in the fox. Tina rallied her spirits again, and began to face everything optimistically. Bella also gave birth to her puppies around this time. Summer came, and Tina would bring her dog and the cow to stay at the mountaintop farm for a while. She never kept records here. Instead, she would sit on the grass with her dog every day, and quietly enjoy the sunbath. This would temporarily allow her to forget her worries. But these days didn't last long. The appearance of a strange man shattered this peace. The brutal man slaughtered the cow. The dog ran to help, but was also killed by the butcher. Enraged, Tina immediately took out her weapon and killed the man. Afterwards, she pushed the man's body off the cliff. After burying the dog and the cow, Tina returned to the cabin alone and started writing in her diary. This was the last piece of paper she could write on. Both sides were already full of writing. That day, she also saw a strange crow. All crows are black, but this one was white. It looked out of place among its kind. Tina felt she was just like the crow. At the end of the film, the protagonist didn't leave the valley. Although this film has a bit of a fantasy element, it's actually an art film. Behind its bland plot, there's an intriguing story. Many animals appeared in the film. They came and went in a hurry, and they also influenced the protagonist's growth. The dog represents loyalty. It stayed by the protagonist's side, never leaving. It ultimately gave its life. The cow represents diligence, teaching the protagonist self-reliance. The cat represents gentleness, symbolizing human weakness in adversity. The fox represents wisdom. The protagonist maintained a clear mind throughout her ordeal. It is a symbol of the protagonist's yearning for freedom. The white crow is a true reflection of the protagonist. The lonely protagonist becomes an outsider in the group. Many say this film is the inner monologue of an autistic person. But upon reflection, deep within each of our hearts, there is an invisible wall we cannot escape and others cannot enter.